Hi, this is Jessica DeMassa with the Guidewell Insights Lounge. I'm here with Rob Nail, who's the CEO of Singularity University. So Rob, you just got off the stage and we heard your talk. So tell us, what exponential technology do you think has the power to most disrupt healthcare moving forward?
You know, it's an amazing question. I get asked this all the time. And you know, we started Singularity University to look at this exponential pace of technology. And I would say all of the exponential technologies are moving changing things dramatically. And in fact, I like to say that every part of our lives, every business, every industry, and society as a whole is being disrupted by technologies.
Right.
But if you push me to pick a couple,
I think healthcare in particular.
In healthcare, for the short term, AI and data analytics is the biggest opportunity that we have. Right, we're starting to learn how to take this amazing assortment of information and data that we have and find signal from the noise. Right, so IBM Watson being able to take all of humanity's healthcare records of all of history, and be able to mine them and look at them from to answer very specific questions is something a doctor could never do, right? And so we're, I think, every day coming up with new insights that are going to be extremely valuable to the future of our health, right? So that is just going to be, it's like an onion unfolding. We're just going to find more and more insights along the way, and it's just going to be curing diseases, curing cancers. And I think the next 20 years are going to be extraordinary for the future of our health.
Sure.
I talk about robotics,
Right.
and I think robotics can be a field where it's helping propel this, because a robot is really just an information platform that interacts with the physical world.
Okay.
And the robots that are in hospitals and delivering things actually have a lot of sensors. And so one of the most interesting examples that I like about robots today is that if a robot is cleaning my floors at home, it's also watching. It can also see where I walk in the house.
Right.
And it can notice that I take tea every afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden it may notice that I have tea at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. And it turns out a change in our behavior, our patterns of behavior, are directly indicative of a change in our physical health, our status. Whether it's emotional status or physical health status, a change in pattern is an early indicator of that. And so if you have a robotic system or a smartphone or other things that are aware of the environment, they're aware of our patterns and our behaviors and when that changes. And so in the near future, the robot notices my pattern changes and should call the doctor immediately and say, hey, let's schedule a checkup and find out what's changing. And that is going to help save a lot of lives and take us very far away as well.
Without a doubt. So we were just talking to Neil Jacobstein, and one of the things that he said is we need to start thinking about our health as a data problem.
Absolutely.
So what does that mean to you? Can you elaborate on that a little?
Yeah, so I think really our health is a very complex collection of different things, right? So there's so many problems that we don't even understand how they work yet. But what we do have is lots of symptoms and lots of things that show up that are directly indicative of that health problem. And so early diagnosis of any kind of cancer or problem is the number one way to save your life, right? If you have pancreatic cancer or something, if you identify it as it's just starting, you are very likely to survive.
Without a doubt.
If you find it 3 months or 6 months later, you're very likely to die. And so anything we can do to capture that information, analyze it, and understand that that's correlative to our health is going to allow us to live much longer and find those problems far sooner than they would otherwise show up.
Right. So what has you most optimistic about the future of healthcare?
Yeah, honestly, for me, it's just every day seeing new breakthroughs and new understanding of how our body works. It is coming from this explosion of information and understanding and ability to mine all the data and find signal from the noise, to find understanding in there. And that's a problem that our doctors are not incentivized to do, right? It's something that our labs have had a hard time because they have limited resources. And now these are like superpowers that we're giving to our researchers, that they now have access to information and ways to understand it that we just never had before.
Right.
And so I can, as every day progresses, I can see new understanding and new learnings that are going to help us cure diseases and cure cancer.
What part of the health system do you think needs to be disrupted most in order to make all of this happen?
Wow, that's a really loaded question, because we have such a complicated healthcare system, right? Especially in the Western world, where there's incentives and HMOs and all so complicated, and unfortunately, it's a business, right? Healthcare is a business today. And so the incentives are not necessarily aligned to our living longer and being healthier. And so I think that's shifting today. And where it's shifting is we're having the democratization of technology, means IBM Watson in the cloud allows a kid in a garage to have the capabilities of IBM Watson.
That's amazing.
And so they're going to have the ability to come up with some new breakthrough that a pharma spends billions of dollars on research may not come up with. And so now we're going to see a lot of leapfrogging of the old system to come up with new insights. And then they're going to come up with the barriers of regulation, which is a big problem. And we're going to talk a lot about that here at this program. I'm very concerned. We put in regulatory bodies to help keep us from doing really stupid things and really bad things, and keeping us safe and secure and deal with those issues.
Right.
But regulation today doesn't really work the way it was intended, because if we decide that we should regulate embryonic stem cell research, does it slow down the exponential pace of learning? No. What happens is it just moves away from the US and goes to China and Brazil and a few other places.
Right.
So we're living in a tough time where even if we decide to regulate it, it's not going to slow it down for the reasons we wanted. It's just going to move to different markets.
Right.
And so regulation, it doesn't work, which kind of opens up the opportunity for startups with crazy ideas to launch in new areas that maybe are a little more, maybe more liberal-minded around some of these things, which also scares me. So this is the dark side too, right? Because if you think of CRISPR technology, it's one of the greatest, it's the greatest biotech breakthrough that we've seen in 30, 50, maybe ever. Because now we have the tools to re-engineer organisms, and that is going to allow us to create better food. It's going to allow us to cure diseases and things. But it also is going to allow us, well, so on the positive side, it's going to allow us to eradicate the genetic disorders that have plagued humanity always.
Right.
Like fundamentally, we can now eradicate genetic disorders. But that same tool can be used to, well, my kid could be a little taller, a little smarter, a little more blue, right?
Right.
It's the same tool.
It is.
And there's some real moral and ethical considerations here. And who is deciding? Well, we have regulatory bodies in the US that say, no, we're not going to be doing that. Maybe we'll eradicate through IVF, we can eradicate some of those diseases, but we're not going to let you have a blue kid. Right. We're just not going to do that. You're not going to have a kid with wings. Like, that's not going to happen. But is that going to happen in China? Maybe. And I think the next 2 years, we're going to be pushing the limits of what we're doing in clinics in other regions of the world using CRISPR technology specifically for humans. I think it's inevitable. I think it's going to be an extraordinary blossoming of a spectrum of humanity that you won't even call it human anymore. I think we'll start to talk about, there's some books, Juan Enriquez talked about calling it the Homo evolutus, as in we're now a new species because we're re-engineering humanity, which I think is going to be amazing and extraordinary, but we're not ready.
No.
And this is the main point. Technology is moving exponentially. We think linearly. Our whole world, our infrastructure, our systems were set up hundreds and thousands of years ago in a very linear mindset. When technology is moving exponential, we don't know how to deal with it. And so we need to equip ourselves with new capabilities, new tools, new understanding, and new ways of thinking to allow us to envision a long-term future that actually takes us to someplace beautiful, which is a world of abundance, which allows technology to help solve problems we could never solve before, but it works differently than the one we have today. And that's scary and exciting. And really, that's why we're here.
That's exactly why we're here. And thank you for putting that so beautifully. And I think thank you so much also for organizing all of these conferences, not only exponential medicine, but exponential finance and exponential manufacturing as well, to help us make sense of all of those changes and keeping pace with the exponential growth in technology.
Great. Well, thank you
so much.
Yeah.
It was such an honor to meet you. Such a pleasure.
Well, and thank you so much to GuideWell for helping really bring this out to the world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you from the GuideWell Insights Lounge.